I'm going to be using my Anastasia Soft Glam 2 palette, and I'm going to pick up the shade Incense here on a BK201 brush. To start this in the center part of my crease, and I just kind of stipple this around. This kind of gives me an idea about how much makeup is on my brush. So once I can tell there's no more makeup coming off of the brush, then I kind of start blending this out and shaping my eye. With a transition shade, you don't have to be so precise, but it does help me start shaping my eye and kind of giving me that warmth. I can use this shade to blend out any of my shadows going forward, and that's kind of where I choose my transition shades. I'm going to start blending this up towards the arch of my brow and taking this out towards the tail end of my brow. And I do like to extend this past the tail end of my brow just a little bit, because this is going to make the appearance that my eye is much wider and bigger than it actually is. And then what I like to do is go back to the center part of the eyeshadow, and I'm going to start working this over all the way to the inner corner and kind of going up towards the front part of my brow and just feathering this upward like this. That way we get a nice soft look, and it's not just going to be this harsh line. And then we're just going to go over all of the edges. Once again, this is going to diffuse everything out and make everything look super, super blended. I'm picking up the shade Mulberry on a BK211 brush. So usually I'd be going in with a crease shade here, but I feel like the shade Incense left a good amount of depth in my crease. So I feel like I'm safe to skip it for now. And that's why I'm going to just jump straight into that outer corner, because the outer corner is also going to add a little bit more depth into my crease as well. So I just feel right now I can skip that and then add it afterward. And that'll kind of help blend and diffuse those two shades together. I'm applying this on the outer half of my crease. And what I'm going to do is slowly start blending this up towards the arch of my brow, on my brow bone, and recreating my crease. The depth of my crease, I kind of want to be more up in here because I do have slightly hooded eyes. This is going to allow me to blend any of my lid shadows up a little bit higher, creating a bigger, more open and wider eye. So what I'm going to do is just use little stippling motions to slightly blend this a little bit more over than half to create that depth. And then from there, I'm going to take this, follow the depth up, and then we're gonna follow this all the way out to the tail of your eyebrow. And work with really small amounts and make sure you tap off any excess, especially working with these dark shadows, because it's really easy to get really muddy and yucky. Or if you have too much shadow, then you're gonna get a lot of fallout onto your face makeup. So blend them out fully before you add any more shadow. It is easier to add more shadow than it is to get shadow off. Once you achieve the shape and the depth that you like, what I like to do is grab the 201 brush that I applied the first shadow on with. We're not going to pick up any extra shadow at all, and I'm just going to use whatever is left on the brush, and I'm just going to go around the edges and diffuse out any of those edges and soften them up. That way your eye look is going to stay really well blended and diffused. I'm going to use the side of a BK202 brush to pick up the shade Dusty Rose. I'm lightly blending this on the high portion of the center part of my crease, and then I'm going to follow this along that brow bone, and this is just going to help infuse those two shadows together. It's also going to tie in your blush, bringing all of your makeup look together. And not only that, I just feel like any of those mauvey tones look beautiful on all eye colors. I'm picking up the shade Tempera on the side of a BK A502 brush. Make sure you tap off any excess, and then we're going to apply this on the lower part of the lid right in the center, because again, that's going to show us how much product we're working with. Once you can tell how much makeup you have, then we're going to start slowly blending this all the way over to the very inner corner. When we come back, we're slightly going to blend this up onto the lower portion of our crease. This is where it's going to give your eye that lift and create that illusion that your eye is going to be more lifted, bigger, and more open and wider than it actually is. Because again, my crease is now having the illusion that it's all the way up here. So now my eyelid is all the way up here. This gives you the chance to start lifting your eyes. Now I'm gonna pick up the shade Dreamer on a Morphe M456 brush. If you want your shimmers to show up more pigmented, just spray them with some setting spray. I love to use this NYX Matte Finish setting spray. I just feel like it's not as sensitive on my eyes as the other setting sprays. I'm just gonna start this on the lower part of the crease and then slowly work this over all the way into that inner corner. And then I'm going to follow my natural crease line, because you don't wanna bring your shadows up too high just yet. I will slightly diffuse this out, but I want most of that pigment to be on my actual eyelid. Once I get most of that blended out, I'm going to release a lot of that pressure and just lightly diffuse this just on that lower part of the crease. This is why it's so important not to set your face with setting spray until after your eyeshadow, because if you got any fallout from your eyeshadow, you can now just take a big fluffy brush. This is the Morphe M501 brush, and you can just look up and just lightly dust away any shadow that fell onto your makeup, because powder on powder is easier to dust away than if you set your face. Your shadow now has something to stick and grip to, and when you go to dust it away, you're going to get those little like dashed lines when you sweep it away. This next shadow is actually like a triple threat. It is orange soda, and I'm using a Morphe M510 brush. And what this is going to do is add some warmth to my eye look, but it's also going to add another layer of diffusion, just making my makeup look really soft and diffused and really well blended. But not only that, it's also going to make my blue eyes pop, because blue and orange are opposite on the color wheel. I lightly just fluff some onto the tip. I tap off any excess, and then I just lightly dust this over the brow bone only. Now for my inner corner highlight, I'm using my Morphe and Jaclyn Hill palette, and I'm going to pick up the shade in Light on a BKA 504 brush. Now I'm just going to blend this in right on that inner corner, and I'm also going to diffuse this back into the other shimmer shades. That way everything is super seamless, diffused, and well blended both on the inner and outer corners. So here is the finished look. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that was helpful. If you recreate this look, please tag me, because I would love to see. You can follow me on my other social media pages. I have everything for that linked up in the link tree in my bio, and you can also shop any of the products I used for this look on my LTK and also in the Linktree shop. I love y'all so freaking much, and I hope to see you in my next one.